Hey there guys, good morning. Welcome to my Compound Life. I am Jonathan. This is the channel where we build assets, we build habits, and of course we build freedom that will be financial freedom for you, me, and anyone else that watches my video. So if this is your first time watching my video, I make Bitcoin video almost on a daily basis. So remember to hit the like, hit subscribe, and let me know who you are in the comment section where you guys watching from. It's always great to hear from viewers. So let's get started with today's Bitcoin daily video. As of time of recording, it's the 6th of February 2026, around 9:11 a.m. in the morning in the United Kingdom, West Midlands. I hope you're well. So let's start with Bitcoin price action. Woohoo! Right, so Bitcoin price right now is trading around 64,000 to about 65,000. In the past 24 hours, it went down huge by about 9%, starting from about 71,000, hitting a high near 71, and low around 60. Yeah, 60. So we are about 50% away from the previous all-time high of 126,000. That's back in October the 8th last year. Okay, so this drop feels like a sudden shakeout, right, where big sellers push the price low to scare some smaller holder, or it's essentially just heaps of liquidation going on, liquidation long. So yeah, I think it was like a storm, a huge storm in the market yesterday, so not looking too good. So I think heaps of liquidation, no doubt. It does seem a lot of longs has been taken out, and then now a lot of shorts are piling up right around here. Okay, so speculation: will we actually head back up in a very, very short period of time? Okay, so that's something to look forward to, right? However, having said that, we are essentially in the bear market. I think initially a lot of influencers on social media, they're like, no, we're still in the bull market. It's all a readjustment. The ISM business cycle will kick in, yada, yada, yada. However, I do have a sense that a lot of the influencers, social media influencers now, they're getting their mind around, and many of them are changing that we are officially in the bear market, guys. So bear that in mind. Of course, with heaps of liquidation yesterday, it wasn't good. How much got wiped off? A lot of money got wiped out, right? A lot of money got wiped out. So generally not good, guys. But I think it's still good to highlight, right? Despite the Bitcoin flash crash, Bitcoin hit a fresh crash low at $60,000, which is, as I've mentioned, this is the key support level from last year. Okay, let me just zoom out a little bit. Okay, so this is the key support zone for last year, and we continue to hold. This could be where buyer steps in stronger, but if it breaks, more downside potential. Okay, so bear that in mind, guys. So price is testing all lows, showing weak hands selling while strong hands holding. But we'll see how it all pans out, because unlikely we'll be heading back up to this zone anytime soon. This is where I'm kind of thinking, will we still go back up to cover the CME gap anytime soon. So CME gap is somewhere around here at 84,000. But I think there will be a lot more sell pressure if we, if in the short term we somehow pump back up to around this zone, 71 to about 80. So I reckon a lot of people will take profit here, and very likely they will take even more profit by the time we get to around this area, because the anticipation would be 84,000 CME gap needs to cover. So plenty of sell orders, I think, will be piled up at around this zone here. Okay, just as I said, because we are drawing nearer and nearer to the 200 weeks moving average, as indicated by this blue line, this thin blue line. I'm not sure whether you can see it, this thin blue line. And this thin blue line is at around $58,000. So this is where a lot of people are piling in that buy order at around 60, right? Because they didn't want to miss the 58K, right? So that's why 60K becomes that psychological entry for many. And at the same time, this is also a very, very key support, as mentioned earlier, back in 2022, right? So, yeah, I think not much to say about. Maybe we will continue to retrace around this area and see how far we get. So this has to be that support, right? If we break this, there will be more potential downside. Okay, so I think naturally the next question is, what would be the potential downside then, right? Okay, so we are, so as a reminder, right? As a reminder, the last cycle, let me mute myself here, yeah. So the last cycle, we were at the peak of $69,000, right? It took us approximately 31 weeks to get to the 200 weeks moving average, right? And that's a huge drop of 68%, okay? And not the last, but the last cycle, we were at a peak of 19,000, about 20,000 Bitcoin, okay? And then eventually we hit the 200 weeks moving average exactly about 52 weeks later. And that's a drawdown of 84%, right? So if we take this for a reference, because it does seem this might be playing out because of shorter time frame to bring us down to that 200 weeks moving average, and potentially, so this is why I'm letting you guys know that apart from the fact that we all know that Bitcoin bounces off when it hits the 200 weeks moving average, it's also important to take note of sometime it may stay below that 200 weeks moving average, right? So for this instance, if we take reference from the last cycle, if this is the 200 weeks moving average, it can further potentially dip by another 30%, right? 30%. Okay, so if that's the if this time round 200 weeks moving average is about $58,000, Sorry, I'm not meant to draw a line here. For it to get about 30%, potentially we could get to a low of 40,000, right? $40,000 per Bitcoin. Okay, so that's dropping from about 58,000 to about 40,000. Okay, so this is why I mean, because I can see a lot in the comment section right now. Okay, many of the viewers are saying that, hey, absolutely right, Bitcoin, it can potentially follow historically. If we just zoom out a little bit, in almost all cycle, right, it peaks, takes about a year, it gets to 200 weeks moving average, it touches it, and then it go back up, right? And 3 years of bull followed by a parabolic movement. Okay, so it peaks, goes down, meet the 200 weeks moving average, and for some instances it may actually drop further, right? And then somehow go back at the 200 weeks moving average, and then boom, 3 years of bull followed by a parabolic move, right? I mean, guys, by the time we zoom out on this chart, I mean, Bitcoin price is actually not that bad, right? Of course, this definitely feels suck. This is very, very bad. It feels bad. We all beaten up, by now. But look at the Bitcoin price chart. From inception until now, it does seem we have been in a very, very bullish market, right? So every time when I zoom out, I kind of comfort myself, you know what, I just have to wait until the next bullish moment going back out for Bitcoin. But in the meantime, let me just manage everyone's expectation here, because that's something you guys need to know, right? And for me to call out 52 weeks to get to 200 weeks moving average, 31 weeks. So far, it's 17 weeks. If we continue to drop, if we cannot, cling onto this support at 60,000, very fast we'll get to this 58,000. That's the moving average. And which, by the way, the 200 weeks moving average, it keeps going up, because as long as the price maintain at higher up, it will continue to go up, right? So by the time we meet and cross the 200 weeks moving average, I'm kind of anticipating that would be around 59 or 60,000, right? And it can probably take place soon, right? Within these 2 weeks, maybe. Okay, so if we cannot, as mentioned earlier, if we cannot hold here, right, and then knowing the fact that the bear market historically for Bitcoin would take about 12 months from here to here, right? 12 months. Oh, what did I do? Hit the like, guys. Okay, so historically, let's make sure I don't go crazy pressing stuff. So historically, if we still think that the 4-year cycle continue, right, and then Bitcoin price will continue to head downwards, and knowing the fact that in the last cycle, after hitting that 200 weeks moving average, we dropped further 30%. Maybe this time around we won't drop further 30%, maybe another 20%. So 30%. Just now, when I looked through it, was about I don't know, 40,000, right? 30%. Yeah, 30% will bring us to about 40,000, 41,000 Bitcoin per Bitcoin. Okay. Or we could drop less. Potentially drop from, I don't know, 20% maybe. So 20% would bring us to about 47,000, 46,000 Bitcoin. So if we simply just looking at charts, like historical rhythm, right? Surely there will be some sort of bounces coming, right? Because looking at what's happening right now, the RSI, it's very, 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 very low. Okay. I mean, looking at this RSI, we've never been this low since sometime in June 2022. Or somewhere in 2011. So we haven't seen this such a low RSI. But of course, I'll get into the news section. I'll get into the macro section. Macro are screaming terrible. You know, we essentially don't have any more catalysts, immediate catalysts available, right? So perhaps from an RSI perspective, despite the fact that we're very, very low, right? We're somewhere here. We could even potentially get lower, right? Potentially, this is what I'm trying to get to. We can potentially actually go below this 200 weeks moving average. It's what I want to prepare you guys into, right? So, like, I've seen so many of you guys are rather bullish, saying that the bottom is almost in most of my comment section. What I want to get my point across is the fact that, guys, a dip, there could be more dips, right? Apart from just this huge dip, right? Despite the fact that RSI is already very low, right? I do anticipate there will be some relief rally that comes up. But having said that, even with relief rally, right, like what you're seeing here, relief rally, you know, it will continue to drop, right? If we follow through this 4-year cycle, right? Of course, I mean, not financial advice, guys. Definitely do your own research. But there are so much talks about potentially Fed needs to cut rate. I don't personally anticipate any to come in March or April. Maybe sometime in June after, right, when this Kevin guy comes in. But for now, I just need you guys all to be prepared that maybe bottom's not in yet, right? Because I've been there, right? I've been there where the last cycle at around 69,000, you know. Let's print it, daily chart, easy to view. Right. 69K Bitcoin. So this from here to here is approximately 1 year, guys. Okay. So to me, it seems that we are somehow playing out similarly, right? From here, we dropped to about 60K-ish, right? And I said to you guys, you know, potentially we could have some sort of relief rally, right? And then the relief rally can easily, maybe, I'm just thinking out loud, maybe bring us back to around at this region to essentially just touches the CME gap, right? And then potentially we touch the CME gap and then we continue to tumble, right? And then, continue to bring us back down, following this, essentially following this, guys, essentially following this, right? So this is why I'm still trying to manage all of us that potentially Bitcoin can continue to drop, right? Because based on history kind of trends, it takes approximately 1 year to hit that bottom, right? And of course, these are not financial advice. I know a lot of you guys want to time the bottom, but at the same time, I simply felt, after I've done a few more rallies, right? So I've been here, guys. I've been here too, right? And usually when I was here last time, I deployed slightly too early and then Bitcoin continued to dip. But it's fine, right? Because when you capture Bitcoin at around this zone and then somehow Bitcoin hit this zone, you'll be like, what? That's like 4x of your investment, guys. So it doesn't matter, right? So this is why strong DCA plan in place. If you fully commit and say, hey, I want to DCA as much as possible during this phase, right? Imagine if we're here right now, right? And then we know the fact that there'll be a relief rally, right? And then you don't want to take the risk to say that, hey, potentially there could be a relief rally or not, and then potentially Bitcoin continue to go upwards after and totally break the 4-year cycle. That could happen too, right? So that's why you want to start the DCA here, right? But also knowing the fact that potentially this could play out too. We're here. Relief rally takes us back and get back to hitting the CME gap of 84,000. And then afterwards, we continue to go down. This is where you want to have a daily DCA plan and some money set aside so that you can continue to capture some of this bottom, right? And it doesn't matter for you to set aside that money, because imagine if we go back up to about here, right? So if we take the last cycle as reference, right? So you came in at Bitcoin at 33K, right? And then Bitcoin somehow continued to go up and then get back up to around this accumulation zone of around 60 something K, right? 60,000, let's say. You still have a good accumulation zone until it reaches, 120, right? That is still a good 2x gain, right? So I reckon as long as you just continue to DCA and make sure that you continue to have cash aside so that you can capture the bottom, I think that is the most important thing, guys, right? I just wanted to let you guys know I've been through it. There's always a relief rally somewhere that gives us all the fake hope that Bitcoin is going back up, but essentially it's not, because somehow I still believe this will play out, right? After the all-time high zone, right, takes 1 year for us to get to the bottom, okay? So bear that in mind, guys. Okay, enough of this chat. Let's move on to the fear and greed index. I think terrible fear and greed, extreme fear. We will be in this zone for a long time, at least for a couple of months left, okay? So guys, just stick around. We'll be fine. Let's take a quick look in terms of ETF. Guys, by the way, ETF, I think none of these are OGs. whenever price dip, all they do will be selling, right? So I kind of anticipate more selling coming, right? More and more selling coming, right? So yesterday's Bitcoin ETF, it's all outflow, right? $434 million worth of outflow, right? BlackRock, Fidelity, Bitwise. I don't think there are much inflow, to be honest. And then the same for Ethereum. Yesterday were all outflow, right? 80 million outflow. And then even for Solana ETF, 2.9 million inflow. Okay, interestingly enough. But to be honest, I think how Bitcoin price goes, right? If we get to 200 days, 200 weeks moving average, 58K, right? We may get slightly lower, 20-30%, right? So even get to about high of 40,000 or low of $40,000, or it could potentially head back even lower. I don't know, right? Just a YouTube guy looking at charts all day, sharing my view, right? So none of this are financial advice, but at the same time, I just simply felt the Bitcoin rhythm will remain, and then we will remain and continue to go up. But in the meantime, this is a bear market. And by the way, bear market is the market that you want to accumulate, right? I learned this the hard way, right? Let me tell you my story. I got into Bitcoin sometime here, and I got into Bitcoin. No, actually, I got into Bitcoin earlier. Sometime here. Actually, I got into Bitcoin a lot more earlier. But anyway, the true time that I actually learned about all of this cycle was from this cycle, followed by this cycle, and followed by this recent cycle, right? So I got into Bitcoin a lot more earlier. But rather than saying I got into Bitcoin, I knew about Bitcoin a lot earlier, but I was expecting everything will turn and perform similar to Bitcoin. And the reality is, no, it never, right? And so in the end, I've invested a lot on shitcoin. At that time, we don't even have meme coin. At that time, it was just NFT and stuff like that, right? So I've invested in many of these, and all of them will go to zero, right? And many of them don't even last for one cycle. So imagine this is one cycle, right? So Bitcoin has been the fourth cycle already. And many of the other coins, the tokens, the cryptocurrency, etc., they don't last that many cycles, right? And many of them, they'll just do one parabolic move, and then that's it. That's it, right? So this is why every time when I'm talking to you guys, I just want to make sure that if you guys invested on any cryptocurrency, just make sure whenever you are in profit, take profit and shift that into Bitcoin, right? You don't want to hold anything else apart from Bitcoin, and you simply just want to hold Bitcoin for a longer period of time, right? So every time, this is the thing that I've learned so far, right? Every cycle, all you want to do is make sure you hold Bitcoin. But every cycle, there will be the bear market. Bear market is the best time to accumulate, of course. And more importantly, I mean, if you're a DCA gang, right, you do dollar cost average on a daily basis, this will not be a content for you, right? Don't let my words mess up your mind, right? However, for me, I'm more of the DCA on certain period of time that I can maximize my gain or my accumulation of Bitcoin, right? So every cycle is similar, it follows similar trend where I kind of gone in a lot more earlier and somehow missed the bottom, right? And so this is why I always talk about catching a falling knife, right? Because you will have plenty of time to catch the falling knife at this zone, right? So imagine if you wait and wait and wait until the very bottom, and then so you kind of have to follow a little bit of mind thinking here, right? So if you look at, if we know that the bottom will be sometime here, right? So essentially it means sometime over here, right? So if that's the case, maybe you don't want to start to catch all of the falling knife immediately, right? And then when it peaks, you kind of FOMO back in. You don't want to do that. So stop that. Stop doing that, guys, right? But rather, you continue to wait and see whether we get to a bottom here, right? Which essentially means here. And then you start to buy back in. And when you buy back in, yes, you buy back in here, you buy some here, you buy some here, you buy some here, you buy some here, is better than you buy a lot and then somehow it goes back up and then immediately you have that FOMO moment and then you'll be like, oh, this is my time now. Bitcoin will rally, which it will not rally, guys, right? It takes about 12 months to get to the bottom to shake out all of the weak hands, right? So don't FOMO in when it peaks. Because, by the way, there's a CME gap, right? So I still think somehow the CME gap will be covered in the coming weeks or months, okay? So there could be a relief rally, and then it will continue its heading lower, right? So rather than deploying too early, right, maybe here, and then FOMO in here, and then use up all of your cash on the sideline where you've got no more cash, and then you miss the whole bottom. So just bear that in mind, guys. This video is getting too long. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Let me just move on to the important news. Important news that I want to cover. Okay, first thing first. I think this could potentially be, I don't know, a black swan, maybe a gray swan, that can immediately bring us down even further. I think with this news announcement yesterday, before that, I think it already had some impact on the Bitcoin price, where Bitcoin dropped towards 60,000 in around 12 a.m. my time in the UK. And then afterwards, this news came out at about 2 a.m. my time, right? So the US embassy tells all US citizens to leave Iran now. So yeah, I think geopolitics, it's not going to be good. I think this will continue to have a cascading effect if this, not sorted out soon enough. Yeah, it adds a lot of pressure, and in the short term, I think these are all bearish sentiment tension for Bitcoin. And of course, yesterday, I think one of the key things that came out was initial job loss claims higher than expected, right? So job loss claims are when people file for unemployment benefits after losing their jobs, right? So for week ending January the 31st, actual was around 231,000. But forecast was around 212,000. So previously it was 209,000. So this data came out yesterday. And for Bitcoin, I think holders, weak jobs, by the way, weak jobs data means economy slowing down, right? So it's not good for the short term, right? So I think this is why with such sentiment, investors are cautious. So that's why they decide to take profits, right? Or leave the market and stay in cash, right? Because they anticipate market continue to drop where they can buy back in later, right? It doesn't mean that they take profit and leave. Very likely, maybe some of them are not even in profit, but they do have the expectation that the market will continue to dip because of such news, and they anticipate to buy back in lower. And of course, the jobs opening data also came out. Job openings lower than forecast. Jobs opening show how many jobs available, right? So previously was jobless claims, but this another data is essentially showing how many jobs are open and available in the market. For December, actual was 6.5 million, forecast about 7.1 million. Previous, it was 6.9 million. Okay, so it matters for us to know this because slow economy pressures stocks and crypto for sure, right? So, and of course, I think immediately when this data came out, Bitcoin dumped around announcement from 70,000 per Bitcoin to a lot more lower, right? So short term, very, very, very bearish in the market as bad news essentially sparks a lot of fear, right? Long term, I think it will be bullish if it all leads to Fed cutting rate, right? But mind you, I don't think Jerome Powell will be willingly to cut rate anytime soon. I think looking at poly market, March, 20% rate cut, very too low. So I kind of think maybe investors has already priced in. So that's why, Bitcoin and crypto and everything else continue to dip, right? So maybe at least for quarter one this year, I'm kind of thinking it will continue to get lower, right? Or maybe even quarter two will simply just be awful. Maybe the recovery might come somewhere towards closer to June, okay? So something to manage everyone's expectation, and not to be too bullish on Bitcoin anytime soon, as we are in a full year of bear market. We are already almost 4 months in. Actually, we're already 4 months in, guys, right? 4 months in, right? Because the drop was October the 8th, right? So yeah, I think 4 months in, almost 4 months in. Okay, so not looking good, but it's not just Bitcoin that took the beating, guys. The rest of the US stocks are falling after jobs data. Nasdaq is down 1.34%, S&P 500 1.13%, Russell 2000 is down 1.5%. So everything went down. So it's not just Bitcoin getting hit the most, but the rest of the market are essentially the same. Okay, and of course, what else are driving the Bitcoin price to go further down? I think a lot to do with a lot of people are selling. Even Bhutan is selling. So Bhutan, a small country that's been mining and holding Bitcoins as a national reserve. So they sold about $22 million worth recently, and I think they are continuously selling. So 184 Bitcoin for 14 million and 101 Bitcoin for 8 million. So this happened during the broader crypto drop on between 4th to 5th of February. So reducing their portfolio to about $412 million. And why are the reason that they're selling? I mean, they need cash, they need to do rebalancing, so that's why they sold. But at the same time, knowing that every time when we get into a bear market for Bitcoin, a lot of miners, they'll need to sell, or otherwise they'll capitulate. Right? Essentially means because they'll need money, cash, to continue to pay for their electricity maintenance, or even buy more machines to get ready for the next halving event, right? Because the next halving is not too far away. How far away are we? 796 days left, right? So they need to prepare more money. So that's why usually during bear market, we do see a lot of sell off, especially from miners too, because they'll need to pay for stuff, right? They'll need to pay, they don't want to sell off when Bitcoin bottoms, right? So this is kind of like their final opportunity to sell off so that they can live through at least this one full year of bear market, and then they can enjoy the rest of the bull run, right? So it's pretty normal, okay? So it's not market detrimental, okay? And of course, we got other news that are driving Bitcoin price down is when we have key player like Michael Burry. I think it's just blurry in the sense of the real value of Bitcoin, right? It's just simply blurry. But Michael Burry warns of Bitcoin catastrophe if force continues, right? So Michael Burry, famous from The Big Short for predicting the 2008 crash, said Bitcoin has failed as a safe haven and could lead to cascading effect if it keeps dropping. Of course, we all know that, right? So guys, I mean, this is Bitcoin does exactly the opposite of what Michael Burry said, right? So again, it's definitely not good for the market. However, before I finish today, let me just bring you guys some hopium, right? Binance. I know, a lot of you guys don't really like Binance, okay? Binance SAFU fund buys another 3,600 Bitcoin for $233 million. How cool is that, right? So guys, I don't think this is just a SAFU fund, right? This is just a strategic positioning because there's no point keeping US dollars, right? So whatever stable coin that you guys have, they are all US dollars. They're not really, they are crypto, but they are dollar peg crypto. They're dollar peg stable coin, okay? So Binance took that strategic decision rather than keeping 1 billion for their SAFU fund, secure asset fund for users, okay? They swapped that for Bitcoin. Of course, they actually also indicated that 1 billion, right? They swap slowly. I think they're doing it every one day or every couple of days, right? They swap that into Bitcoin. And that's very strategic because they are buying the dips, guys. Okay, so this is why I'm kind of like going crazy. I'm giving you guys suggestion that, hey, there will potentially be more dips, right? So I'm kind of educating you guys. There will be more dips. It takes about 1 full year to get to the bottom, right? There'll be more dips. That takes about 1 full year to get to the bottom, right? And whilst I'm giving this education, not suggestion, not financial advice, guys, right? So whilst I'm giving you this kind of education and overview, purely based on my experience, right? And then there we go. We have got Binance constantly stacking. And they're stacking a lot more earlier, right? Because it took 31 weeks to get to the 200 weeks moving average. And Binance saw that, right? They estimated that it's coming to that 200 weeks moving average a lot earlier, right? So this is why I'm also afraid that I'm giving the wrong overview, right? So that's why I'm like, rather than say buy the bottom, time the bottom, just DCA, guys. that's the best way, right? Because it does seem Binance saw this opportunity. The closer we get to 200 weeks moving average, they will buy, right? And they are pledging, like how I always say to you guys, right? Hey, if you know you want to invest $10,000 into Bitcoin, you kind of spread out your $10,000 or £10,000 into multiple days, and then you kind of do your DCA, right? So of course, Binance goal is to buy at least $1 billion worth of Bitcoin over a set period of time, right? And they are using, rather than us saying that £10,000, Binance is like $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. So whenever Bitcoin price goes lower, right, they will deploy more cash. If it goes lower than 1 billion, they will deploy more cash to buy even more to top it up to 1 billion. So guys, to me, that is like buy the goddamn dip and keep on buying until we finish this bear season, right? And it does seem that if, right, maybe this plays out again, because obviously, right, 31 weeks we get to 200 weeks moving average. Maybe we'll retrace under 200 weeks average by another 10-15%, and then off we go. Or we can play out, we hit the 200 weeks moving average somehow. Raoul Pal, Tom Lee talks about business cycle, ISM business cycle. That one kicks in, and then rather than going through the retrace under the 200 weeks moving average, eventually we bounce back a lot more earlier, right? I'm so excited to see how Bitcoin plays out this time around. So yeah, I think some hopium guys, a lot of people selling. Let's not call them weekend, right? I don't want to give you guys the sense that selling Bitcoin means you're weak. Okay, we buy and sell with a purpose, and I respect that, right? So guys, when we when we are in the comment section, just make sure we respect everyone's decision, right? We all buy Bitcoin for a reason. I buy Bitcoin for more of a retirement, so that's why I've got a hodl bag. I buy Bitcoin because I want to have some good gain that I can pay off more of my properties, real estate assets. So I buy low, sell high in my swing bag, right? And then, of course, sometime I sell the top. Sometime I have to sell when I even sold when we got to about 100,000 and even 95,000, right? Because I want to protect my capital to make sure that I capture the dip. Imagine that, selling at around 95,000, you capture some of this dip. How wonderful is that, right? So be respectful, guys. Be respectful, and I think this is it for today. I know it's painful, but we'll get through, guys. Before we finish, I mean, love this my Compound Life community because you guys are simply awesome, right? So we've got a viewer, Bunbohu369. I don't know, bro. I want to get out now. Even 10K in the hole now. This hurt. My average is 75,000. Okay, I know. I've been through that phase before. I bought the top too, right? But having said that, if you do not have to force sell, not for any financial reason, like you have to pay your mortgage, pay your credit card, I don't know what, right? If you can hold, this is the period you need to remain in Bitcoin, right? So if you want to leave, don't leave now. You can leave 12 months later or 16 15, 16 months later, but don't leave now, right? Because this is a period you need to stay strong. If you don't have to capitulate or sell, don't sell. If this is a period that you can continue to add on, this is the time, guys. This is the time. Look at Binance, right? Because a lot of TradFi, they cannot, this is probably their first cycle, right? And a lot of ETF, these are individual that do a lot of quick rebalance. Maybe when their portfolio, starts to turn negative by about 10%, they start to sell everything off, right? That's how they work, right? However, for us, we slightly function differently. We kind of like what they call as the hodler, right? Of course, Bitcoin hasn't given us a parabolic move, but come on, guys. I mean, if you look through Bitcoin, the bottom of Bitcoin this cycle, right? How much was it? The bottom, $15,000 to about 126, right? How good is that run? Okay, so that's why I'm letting you guys know, just stick around, guys. Stick around. It's very important. And I don't want you guys to miss that, okay? So, yeah, I think you guys are super awesome. I mean, a lot of viewers immediately jump in the community. You sell, you will regret from its simplicity. I think exactly how I felt, in my first 2 cycles. So this is my 3rd cycle, which is also Bitcoin's 4th cycle. Thanks, I will hold now. I mean, it's awesome to have community viewers helping out each others, when we're going through this pain. Waking up every day 10K poorer, it's horrible. I know it's horrible. Volatility comes with its reward, guys. Which asset class out there can give you this magnificent return, right? And this magnificent return essentially means 1 full year of really bad year, followed by 3 years of bull market. Which asset class can give you that, right? So let that sink in, guys. Let that sink in. I reckon Bunbo Ho 369 definitely, sink that in already. I'm down 20K of Bitcoin, and it has little effect on me, except I wish I went all in on a day like this. Don't worry, I got upset when I saw this too, but why worry when it's past all-time high years from now? Yeah, so we will get back to another all-time high. It's simplicity. Waking up 3 to 4 years from now, and the new cycle high is 250K. Could be a lot more than this, which, by the way, is not financial advice from any one of us, okay? Would you regret not putting more money in at these prices? Don't regret not taking advantage of this dip 4 years from now. Exactly, well said. I think we don't have a lot more 4 years left, right? Well, at least for my age, right? I don't have a lot of 4 years. So I'll probably continue to, be doing this for another few more cycles, and then to a point that I'm gonna, be less active with the investment and just live off my properties, my real estates, my rental income. That's what I'll do, right? But exactly right. Yeah, I think simplicity came back exactly, and Bitcoin has been through worse events like the 70% drops. It certainly have, which I don't think we will get to 70% drawdown. Okay, but you never know. I could be wrong. I'm just some guy on YouTube. So this time is where you can make a major hedge against inflation and get ahead. Yeah, so it's been great seeing a lot of comments. So guys, leave a comment. Let me know where you guys are watching from. Love to see all of these comments. Viewers supporting each other, that's the most important thing we need right now. So I pledge to continue to make daily Bitcoin video so that we can get through this bear cycle, and then we all can fly to Valhalla soon. Okay, so hit the like, hit subscribe, and I will see you